Selamat pagi teman-teman. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Antimicrobial Resistance Seminar, One Health and System Thinking a Microbial Perspective. Terima kasih teman-teman untuk kesediaannya hadir di pagi hari ini. We also thank you for Mina Maunula and Professor Dr. Insinyur Siti Subandia for being the speaker and moderator for today. Dan teman-teman gimana? Udah siap untuk mengikuti pembelajaran hari ini? Oke, siapkan catatannya dan nanti kalau misalnya belum presensi bisa dilakukan setelah seminar ini dilaksanakan. Oke? We cordially invite Professor Dr. Insinyur Siti Subandia and also Mina Maunula to move forward in front of the stage. Teman-teman, hari ini kegiatan akan dilaksanakan dengan bahasa pengantar bahasa Inggris. Moderatornya ada Profesor Dr. Insinyur Siti Subandia dan tentunya Mina Maunula as the main speaker. So please, Mom, time and place is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Udah nyala ya. Selamat pagi. Terima kasih sekali. Ini kalau tidak salah ada 3 kelas dari mikrobiom ya. Plus kelasnya Prof. Pak Trijoko. Apa? Ilmu penyakit tumbuhan tropika atau apa? Mungkin yang lain. Itu terima kasih sekali sudah mau hadir dengan kuliah tamu ini. Saya kira mudah-mudahan ini bermanfaat gitu ya. Jadi kita ada internship di Fakultas Pertanian ini 2 mahasiswa S3 dari Helsinki University yaitu Mbak Mina sama Mbak Melina dan juga 1 mahasiswa master Mbak Taru. Ini kita buat 3 kali guest lecture, mudah-mudahan itu memberikan tambahan pembelajaran bagi kita semua sehingga ini memang kita share tidak hanya untuk dosen atau mahasiswa postgraduate tapi juga untuk mahasiswa S1 ya. Monggo silahkan nanti didengarkan bagaimana sharing dari Mbak Mina ya. Judulnya tadi sudah ada ya. Apa judulnya tadi ya? Ada yang baca enggak? Iya. One Health. Saya baca di sini. One Health. One Health and Systems Thinking a Microbial Perspective. Jadi memang ini sangat dekat hubungannya dengan microbiology. Untuk One Health mungkin sudah ada yang paham belum ya dengan yang dimaksud dengan One Health? One Health itu adalah suatu organisasi yang menyatukan perhatiannya, penelitiannya terhadap kesehatan manusia, hewan, dan lingkungan. Nah, kita di pertanian itu termasuk yang concern dengan kesehatan lingkungan, ya, sehingga ini tidak bisa dipisah-pisahkan, itu harus secara integrated kita manage bersama kesehatan secara keseluruhan sehingga monggo ini nanti bisa kita dengarkan dari Mbak Mina yang dari Departemen Mikrobiologi Helsinki University. Mungkin untuk lebih cepatnya silahkan Mbak Mina, you can present your knowledge to our students.
Thank you.
They are undergraduate and also postgraduate students. Okay, thank you.
Oh, this one. Okay, sure. It's okay if I be here? Yeah.
Mungkin saya perlu mengundang dosennya ini ya, Bu Santi, dosen dari mikrobiologi kan ya. Iya. Ini khususnya untuk yang kelas mikrobiom, dosennya Bu Santi. Ini juga dosen baru. Ini wah ini masih kinyis-kinyis sehingga sangat bagus untuk memberikan motivasi pada mahasiswanya.
Okay, hello. Thank you for having me. It's really a great pleasure to be here. So my name is Minna, and today I'm gonna present you One Health and Systems Thinking on a microbial perspective. So first, I want to share a bit where I come from. So I come from Finland, and Finland is part of Europe together with other Nordic countries such as Sweden, Norway, Denmark and Iceland. And Finland has a border together with Sweden, Norway and Russia. And Finland refers to itself as a land of 1,000 lakes. So we have lakes more than 1,800,000. And Finland is covered by forest, over 70%. So that makes us one of the greenest countries in the world in our own way. And we have a population of 5.6 million, so it's the same than here in Georgia, right? And the capital is Helsinki, which is located in the southern part of Finland. We have two official languages, Finnish and Swedish. And I was born there, in Kokkola, so that's the west coast of Finland. And I've been living now in Helsinki for almost 9 years. And then I want to share a little bit of my study and work history. So, like I said, I'm from Kokkola, and I graduated from high school in 2012. And before I went into study in the university, I was working in a pizzeria for a while. I did a Bachelor of Agriculture and Forestry in 2014 to 2017. And during my bachelor studies, I also started working as a research assistant in Professor Marko Virta's group. I did Erasmus exchange, which is a student exchange in Europe. I went to Ghent University in Belgium. And when I came back, I continued working as a research assistant and research coordinator in the uni. I graduated as a Master of Science in Microbiology in 2020. After I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a PhD or not. So I wanted to see how is work in private sector. So I went to work in a COVID lab in Synlab for 5 months. After I got a permanent job position from Hologic company, where I worked as a research and development scientist. And there I designed oligos for assays to detect either viral, bacterial, fungal or parasitical infections from clinical samples. But then a year ago, my main supervisor, Johanna Muurinen, called me and she asked if I wanted to do a PhD with her. So I said yes. And also, at the same time, One Health Finland Association got a project funding. And I worked in that project as a project manager. And the project was to raise awareness of One Health in Finland and in Finnish. I want to share a little bit of this association, One Health Finland, with you. So it's a voluntary-based association established in 2016. And we have members that are veterinarians, clinical doctors, microbiologists, and environmental scientists. So we're very interdisciplinary association. Objectives of our association is to raise awareness in One Health, currently only in Finnish, but who knows in the future. Also, we want to increase interdisciplinary cooperation and also organize science-based events for public. And if you see this One Health Finland logo in the slides, that means that the slides are from the project I was working before and kind of the property of One Health Finland, in case you wonder. And here are the contents of my presentation. So first, let's go through what One Health means. Then I will tell you typical One Health problems and why they have increased over the time. Then I will walk you through to systems thinking. And at the end of this presentation, let's focus on antimicrobial resistance and also what I do in my PhD. And this presentation will be on a microbial perspective. So I will be focusing mostly to zoonotic diseases and microbes. So let's start with the definition of One Health. So I think it's very well said by the CDC. So One Health is a collaborative, multisectoral and transdisciplinary approach working at the local, regional, national and global levels with the goal of achieving optimal health outcomes, recognizing the interconnection between people, animals, plants and their shared environment. And this is then what we think in One Health Finland, what One Health means. So we think that One Health is an example of a systems thinking that recognizes the factors affecting the health of humans, other animals, plants and ecosystems as a holistic network. And if you're not familiar with holism and systems thinking, don't worry, I will explain them to you later. And here on the left is, right, is a really nice picture that my colleague Sanni Hahti has created. So I think it shows very well this whole system where we humans live together with other animals, plants and ecosystems in our shared environment. So what's One Health in practice then? So in practice, the One Health approach involves, for example, cross-sectoral and cross-disciplinary collaboration to design holistic solutions and approaches to One Health problems. And One Health is often presented with these three overlapping circles that we have either human health, animal health, or environmental health, and in the middle, One Health. But at One Health Finland, we have challenged this a bit. So we have drawn these circles on top of each other, or as a continuum. Because do we really have some environmental health that doesn't affect human health? We doubt so. So here are listed some typical One Health problems. So we have food and water safety, nutrition, zoonotic diseases, so diseases that can be spread between animals and humans. We also have pollution, antimicrobial resistance, so that means the emergence of microbes that are resistant to antibiotics. And here are listed some main themes in One Health. So we have zoonotic diseases, vector-borne diseases, environmental health, infectious diseases, occupational health, inequalities, a lot of things. And they are connected to each other in multiple ways. And here is then a list of 10 threats to global health listed by WHO in 2019. We have air pollution and climate change, non-communicable diseases, global influenza pandemic, fragile and vulnerable settings, antimicrobial resistance, Ebola and other high-threat pathogens, weak primary health care, vaccine hesitancy, dengue fever, and HIV. And actually, many of these global health threats are related to One Health and One Health teams. And then a bit of history of One Health. So One Health approach started in the beginning of 2000. So it started from the collaboration between veterinarians and clinical doctors. And this picture is quite old, but it shows really well how these zoonotic diseases, so diseases that can be transmitted from other animals to humans, are spread in the world. It also shows how Nordic countries have been quite safe from these zoonotic diseases. But this was, of course, before COVID. And coronavirus serves as a textbook example of a One Health problem. And in the future, when pandemics like COVID-19 may increase, we need this One Health approach to tackle these problems and crises. So why have these One Health problems then increased? Let's go through that. So interactions between people, animals and plants in our environment have changed radically over the time. So human populations are growing and expanding into new geographic areas. So that means that more people live in close contact with wild and domestic animals. Close contact with animals and their environments provide more opportunities for diseases to pass between animals and people. And this might increase vector-borne diseases and zoonotic diseases, for example. So, our planet Earth has faced many changes in climate and land use. For example, people practicing intensive farming that can lead to deforestation and desertification, and then give new opportunities for diseases to spread. Also, climate change and global warming are speeding up these events. So, also globalization has a big role in One Health problems. So we have international trade and market, and we ship different kind of products and animal products around the globe. Also, we have animals that are traveling around the globe to nest some other country to another country. We have also travel. We humans, we do travel for work, for holiday, so that may also increase the spread of diseases, pollution, and the microbial resistance rapidly across borders and around the world. So this is a flowchart that presents how One Health problems can start. So we have increasing amount of evidence how viral outbreaks are due to human land use and changes in land use, like deforestation. So, for example, humans can cause environmental changes that can weaken our ecosystems, for example, if we practice intensive farming. And this will increase pathogen transmission and pollution and cause food security problems. And this all can lead to health threats, epidemics, and also possible pandemics. And here on the right are listed some events that can be behind of these microbial threats that are listed here. So, for example, policies favoring bioenergy can cause changes in land use and, for example, deforestation. So these can lead for zoonotic diseases to be transmitted from animals to humans. And I have just the right example for you, so let's go through this Nipah virus. So Nipah virus is found from fruit bats naturally, and humans can have Nipah virus infections naturally from the fruit of a date palms contaminated by the bat feces. And this event takes place in Malaysia in 1999. And the spread of the Nipah virus was triggered by policies favoring bioenergy. So the rainforest was cut down to make way for palm oil plantations, which are used as a source of a bioenergy. As a result, the fruit bats nesting in the rainforest had to find new nesting sites. And they ended up nesting near the local pig farms. So then what happened is that the virus spread when the pigs ate the fruit that was contaminated by bat feces. The virus was transmitted from pigs to farm workers. They became ill, and it also spread to other people through contaminated pork meat. So this all, to stop the epidemic in Malaysia, they needed to slaughter more than 1 million pigs, and this led to the nationwide food crisis. So I think this is a really good example how One Health problems can start and where we overlap the health of environment, humans, and other animals. Here is then a picture of today's wicked problems. So we have here biodiversity collapse, climate change, regression, and COVID-19. And these wicked problems, they may seem almost impossible to solve at the beginning. And they may get worse if we focus on them only one tiny detail at a time. So to solve this, we need One Health approach. We need large amount of people, change in mindset, and also change in behavior. And next I'm going to tell you how it's done. So we need holism. And holism, to put simply, is a theory that believes that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And I think this picture is really great, showing how each of these scientists are looking on an elephant. And they are only seeing this one little detail at a time. So they don't realize that detail is part of something bigger. In this case, elephant. So often we need to take a few steps back to see the whole picture. And also here, the interdisciplinary collaboration takes place. And that can help us to see these bigger systems. So next I want to share you this video of cats in Borneo. And I'm sure that you are more familiar with Borneo than I am. But has anyone heard of these cats in Borneo before? No? Okay, great. So let's watch it, and it will introduce the systems thinking for us.
Fashion Flag Coconut Delight. Kekuatan, jaga daya tahan. Beli sekarang.
In the 1950s, the Dayak people of Borneo, an island in Southeast Asia, were suffering from an outbreak of malaria, so they called the World Health Organization for help. The World Health Organization had a ready-made solution, which was to spray copious amounts of DDT around the island. With the application of DDT, the mosquitoes that carried the malaria were knocked down, and so was the malaria. There were some interesting side effects, though. The first was that the roofs of people's houses began to collapse on their heads. Turns out the DDT not only killed off the malaria-carrying mosquitoes, but it also killed a species of parasitic wasps that had controlled a population of thatch-eating caterpillars. Thatch being what the roofs of the Dayak people's homes were made from. Without the wasps, the caterpillars multiplied and flourished and began munching their way through the villagers' roofs. That was just the beginning. The DDT affected a lot of the island's other insects, which were eaten by the resident population of small lizards called geckos. The biological half-life of DDT is around 8 years, so animals like geckos do not metabolize it very fast. It stays in their system for a long time. Over time, the geckos began to accumulate pretty high levels of DDT, and while they tolerated the DDT fairly well, the island's resident cats, which dined on the geckos, did not. The cats ate the geckos, and the DDT contained in the geckos killed the cats. With the cats gone, the island's population of rats came out to play. We all know what happens when rats multiply and flourish. Pretty soon the Dayak people were back on the phone to the World Health Organization, only this time it wasn't malaria that was the problem. It was the plague and the destruction of their grain stores, both of which were caused by the overpopulation of rats. This time, though, the World Health Organization didn't have a ready-made solution and had to invent one. What did they do? They decided to parachute live cats into Borneo. Operation Cat Drop occurred courtesy of the Royal Air Force and eventually stabilized the situation.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and consider becoming a...
So pretty great example, right? Impressive. Yeah. So to sum this up, usually the simplest and the easiest solutions can be the worst ones. So that's why we need One Health approach, which is an example of a systems thinking. Here are listed some tools of a systems thinker. So instead of thinking animals, plants, environment, ecosystems as a separate things. We need to think these in a systems and recognize the interconnections between the different things. We don't want to think things as linear with a beginning and an end, but instead think things as circular entities. I highly recommend all of you to practice this systems thinking. It helps you to learn more things and also understand things more deeply. And there is one system, global food system map. And you can imagine how many different systems we have created in our world. This is just one example. And even though it seems pretty complex, I'm sure it's simplified. And to understand these systems, we need One Health approach. And imagine if we would remove 1 or 2 arrows from the system, maybe it would be okay. Maybe the arrows could find new routes, and it would be okay. But if we would block or remove multiple arrows from the system, we could be facing problems that are really difficult to solve, or maybe the system could even collapse. Yeah, and then let's move on the last part of my presentation. So I will tell you a little bit of antimicrobial resistance, and then later on about my PhD research. So I want to remind you that antimicrobial resistance is a natural and ancient phenomenon. And microbes, they live in everywhere in our planet. In water, in soil, air, in your skin, in your gut. And they can produce antibiotics and antimicrobials to communicate with each other, to inhibit the growth of other bacteria or microbes, and also to kill other microbes. So they use antibiotics for signaling and competition. And our concern is that antimicrobial resistance is spread to disease-causing bacteria, so pathogenic bacteria that can make you ill. And the concern is that there is no available treatments for infections anymore. And antimicrobial resistance is also called like a silent pandemic. It's increasing every year, and more people are dying because there's no available treatment for these infections. So this is, again, a system that we have created that shows and illustrates the spread of antibiotic resistance. So it may seem complex again, but don't worry, I will walk you through this. So we have here different themes like environment, industry, agriculture, healthcare, and travel. And let's start from the environment. So omnipresent environmental bacteria that can carry antibiotic resistant genes. Like I said, they can produce antibiotics, so they of course need to be resistant for those antibiotics they produce. And also other bacteria need to have resistance to compete with the ones who can produce antibiotics. So it's a natural thing. And antibiotic resistant genes are passed on disease-causing bacteria due to the man-made selection pressure. And here we will go through this selection pressure that we cause. So let's start from the industry. So poorly treated effluents from pharmaceutical and other industries can release antibiotics and other contaminants into the environment where they can select for resistant genes. Then in agricultural settings, farm animals are fed with antibiotics, which selects for resistant bacteria in their gut. Resistant bacteria can be passed on to humans through food, especially as a result of poor food hygiene. Fertilizers from animal origin or water containing animal manure are used in agriculture, and animals are then fed with the feed grown by these fertilizers. Also, plants grown with fertilizers containing manure and sewage sludge can be contaminated with the resistant bacteria from the starting materials. So the resistance is spread again. Then let's go through a story of Mauno. So Mauno is a Finnish guy, And you know, in Finland, we have a different hygiene level. So here, you all have very strong guts. And when we Finns, for example, travel to Asia, we need to be careful what we eat because we are so sensitive. So, Mauno goes on a business trip to Asia and he gets the tourist diarrhea. No surprise. Mauno goes to see a doctor and he gets antibiotics. When Mauno returns from his trip, the diarrhea gets worse and Mauno is hospitalized in Finland. In hospital, the resistant bacteria can spread either directly or through surfaces and unwashed hands to patient and staff. Mauno and other patients and caregivers return home and they can spread resistance in their home environment. So they can spread the resistance to family, friends, pets, everywhere. Then there's a short story about Miisa. So Miisa is a Finnish woman and she is given a course of antibiotics, let's say for skin infection. And that course of antibiotics selects for resistant bacteria in her gut. And Miisa stays home in her own home environment and spreads the resistant bacteria again in her community. Resistant bacteria from human activities are released into the environmental, for example, through wastewater. And that's why it's also important to have wastewater treatment and other waste treatments to tackle the spread of antimicrobial resistance and prevent it. So then let's move on to my PhD research. So my topic is the evolution of antimicrobial resistance in the history of agriculture. And objectives of my study is to understand how antimicrobial resistance has evolved in agriculture over the time. I also want to understand how the green evolution, so the use of pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, farm size and farm composition, has affected antimicrobial resistance. I also want to study the role of antibiotic producers, for example, streptomyces, so I can see what role they play in the evolution of antimicrobial resistance. So here is a workflow, because unfortunately I don't have any results to present to you yet. I only started my PhD in the beginning of May, but I will share this workflow with you. So I have samples, I have old manure samples from old Finnish farms from 1950s to 1990s. Then I have soil samples from grain fields from different decades, and also archaeological soil samples from archaeological excavations, oldest being from 1200, field soil from 1200. Then I also have modern samples, modern manure and modern soil samples, so I can see what is the situation in the present day. And from all of these samples, I'm going to extract DNA and do metagenomic sequencing. So with metagenomic sequencing, I can see the microbial community, so the microbiome inside of them. I can see which microbial species are there, and also what antibiotic resistant genes are there. I also want to check the mobile genetic elements. So these mobile genetic elements are elements that can spread the antibiotic resistant genes. So for example, one bacteria here has a resistance towards penicillin, let's say, and the other one doesn't have. So these bacteria can transfer the resistance to, for example, plasmid to another bacteria, and it can become resistant. Or we can have these so-called transposons, which are jumping genes. So the gene can jump with the resistance to another bacteria. There's a few examples how it can spread. And in addition to metagenomic sequencing, I also want to study the antibiotic producers. So I will cultivate the antibiotic producing bacteria from different sample types. And when I have the pure culture, I will extract the DNA from that. So I have one pure bacterial species. And I will do the whole genome sequencing. So I can see the whole genome of that bacteria. And then I can compare. Are they similar with the metagenomic sequencing? Do I find them there? I hope so. And then I can maybe understand what is the role of these antibiotic producers. And how is my research related to One Health then? So I listed a few themes for you. So naturally, I cover antimicrobial resistance. Then also land use and environmental health, animal health, human health, and food and water safety. Can you think of anything else that I cover in my PhD study? Any other One Health theme? Plant health, yeah, of course, yeah. Thank you, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay, so here are my supervisors. So my main supervisor is Dr. Johanna Muurinen from the University of Helsinki. Then my second supervisor is Docent Jenny Hultman from Natural Resources Institute, Finland. And also Professor Marko Virta from University of Helsinki. I have collected some reading for you, so if you are interested to read more about One Health, I can share these articles with you, maybe on a Google Drive, and maybe Nadia can help me, for example, to share it with you. And with this, I'd like to thank you for your attention.
Okay. Thank you, Mina. It is really great presentation, great sharing for our students here. So I hope our students know having a, additional important knowledge and of course also technology to know more about One Health and also antimicrobial resistance. Ya, gimana? Tambah ilmu enggak? Oke, syukurlah, alhamdulillah, mudah-mudahan manfaat. Ada yang mau bertanya? Boleh dalam bahasa Indonesia, nanti ada yang menerjemahkan. Oke, silakan, ada yang mau bertanya?
Teman-teman dipersilakan untuk menyampaikan pertanyaan apabila memilikinya. Bisa disampaikan dalam bahasa Indonesia dan akan dibantu dengan penerjemahnya. Atau you can deliver the question in English.
Kita mau tanya ke ibu dosennya. Bisik-bisik ke ibu dosennya boleh.
Boleh dipegang dulu.
Belum ada? Oke, mudah-mudahan nanti berikutnya ada yang ingin bertanya ya. Saya mau nggak didiskusikan ini, ya nggak? Oke, silakan. Sebutkan namanya, dari mana, studinya, maksudnya program studinya, lalu apa pertanyaannya?
Okay, thank you for your presentation. It's such a great presentation. Bahas aja ya. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nurul Aulia and I'm from Plant Protection Department. And I want to ask about what is your opinion? Why is One Health concept didn't that famous in agriculture? What is your opinion about it? And I want to ask you about how to check mobile genetic element. How to check it in your research? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's really great question. So why is agriculture so dominant in One Health teams? I think it might be because One Health started from infectious diseases and zoonotic diseases, and they often are related quite strongly to agricultural the field, like the land use, farming, and so on, the deforestation. So maybe that's why it's quite dominant. And how to study mobile genetic elements, it's the same as I'm going to study the microbial community and the resistant genes. So I will basically do the metagenomic sequencing or the whole genome sequencing. And then on command line, I will try to see the genes. So I have these sequences that I can compare to a database. And if I find similar sequences from the database and from my sequences, then I know that, hey, this might be a mobile genetic element or antibiotic resistant genes. So basically just comparing my sequences to databases.
Ya, puas, Mbak Nurul? Oke, thank you. Jelas ya? Iya. Apa mau dijelaskan sama Mbak? Santi. Iya. Jadi memang awalnya One Health itu berasal dari ini, teman-teman di kedokteran hewan banyak menemukan bahwa penyakit manusia itu sebetulnya 65% berasal dari penyakit hewan. Ya, yang misalnya patogennya itu mengalami evolusi sehingga yang dulunya hanya menyerang hewan kemudian menyerang manusia. Dan dari mana itu masuk juga ke manusia itu bisa lewat food chain, ya toh? Termasuk lah food chain di mana memproduksinya? Ya di pertanian, ya enggak? Entah itu peternakan, entah itu pertanian tanaman dan processingnya di sana. Sehingga itu menjawab pertanyaannya Mbak Nurul. Nggih. Oke, berikutnya Mbak siapa? Enggak bunyi, Mbak.
Okay, check. Alright, my name is Dita. I'm from Plant Protection, University of Gajah Mada, and I want to ask one question that connect to plant health. Can you explain how your research can connect to plant health? Especially you mentioned that you using a Streptomyces bacteria in your research, and can you give me an example of it in the plant health system? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's a tricky question, but so when I'm gonna do sequencing from my samples, I can, in addition to look the microbial community and the resistant genes and mobile genetic elements, I can also see what kind of food and feed has the animal eaten. So of course, if I have manure samples, I can find some plant DNA from there because they eat plants. So then I can check maybe what kind of feed they have eaten, and then I can combine that knowledge to the historical knowledge, what we know about the animal nutrition on that time. And yeah, it's interesting if I have some information what kind of pesticides and fertilizers and so on they have used in that time and how it relates to the plants that the animals has been eating. Sorry, I'm not sure if it was me. Did that answer a bit? Yeah?
Mungkin ada yang lain yang mau tanya. Ayo, ini yang undergraduate beneran. Kalau yang undergraduate fast track sudah, yang undergraduate ya, undergraduate. Satu, ada lagi? Satu lagi? Ya, undergraduate ya. Fast track. Yang undergraduate duluan coba nanti.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Miftah. I'm from Soil Science on Gajah Mada University. And today I wanna ask some question. And what is your struggle as researchers to implement antimicrobial resistance in agriculture and how one healthy land can help you to solve your problem. Thank you.
Okay, now? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so the question was how my research is helping. Can you repeat?
What is your struggle to implement antimicrobial resistance in agriculture and how One Health Finland can help you?
Yeah, so how to tackle antimicrobial resistance. So my research will help us to understand how the antimicrobial resistance has spread over the time and what are the farm practices, for example, that play a role in antimicrobial resistance. So because I have historical data of the use of pesticides, farm size, farm composition, we might understand better what are the things that affect the spread of antibiotic resistance. So, for example, in 1950s in Finland, the farm sizes were very small, maybe similar than here, so maybe 2 cows per farm or something like that. But they also might have like pigs and poultry and some other animals. But nowadays, for example, in Finland, the farm sizes are so much bigger. They can have tens to hundreds of cows per one farm. So, of course, if you have more animals, then the selection pressure for infections is higher. So I want to understand if these farm sizes and fertilizers and pesticides affect the antimicrobial resistance. And One Health approach can help me to map the system that I'm looking into. So I can try to name, like I have their farm size, fertilizers, animals, humans, and different kind of things that are in the system. So that's why I want to apply One Health approach to that.
Okay. Thank you for your opportunity and thank you for your presentation. My name is Novianti Eka Putri Rahmawati and I'm from Department of Plant Protection. One of part of your material is AMR metagenomics in bacteria. Yes. My question is, does AMR metagenomics exist and apply to other microorganisms such as fungi or virus? Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. And of course, that can be applied to other organisms as well. But I think I will be mostly focusing on bacteria because otherwise I would be doing PhD for 10 to 20 years. Or I need help from other people that can use the same data that I have. So it's possible to look the data from different angles, from bacteria or fungi or parasitic. Yeah. So that's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Oke, ya adik-adik yang dari kelas mikrobioma silahkan ditanyakan ke narasumber kita. Adakah dari kalian, tadi belajar banyak kan ya? Dari resistensi, ada diceritakan pestisida, kemudian ya banyak faktor. Ada yang punya pertanyaan enggak? Tadi yang menarik yang di Borneo. Do you have any question? Malu-malu Bu, we are shy to ask questions. Ya, ayo nggak apa-apa, tanyain. Iya, pakai bahasa Indonesia nggak apa-apa, nanti dibantu translate.
Bisa nggak? Aku bertanya.
Dari pojok kiri dulu deh, yang sebelah sana.
Satu dulu.
Kayaknya asik nih diskusinya. Main tunjuk ya. Ya, ada nggak pertanyaan? Oke, nanti pojok kanan ya, silahkan.
Hello Mina, I'm Sarwan from Biotech. I'm interested in your samples, your archaeological samples. What do you think the survival of the gene inside the sample? Is it still could be still to extract it for metagenomics, and how well it will be performed for the analysis? Thank you.
Thank you, Sharwan. Really great question again. So, from the archaeological samples, they are really old. And sometimes, as you might know, the microbes can go sleep and they can form spores. So, inside of those spores, I'm thinking that the DNA will be completely fine. So, I would say that kind of DNA is preserved very well and it's easy to look into. But then there's also some tools like bioinformatical tools that you can check if your DNA is ancient. So if it's like, let's say, 500 years old. So you can see a pattern in the DNA sequence, and it has damage in the both sides of the fragment. So then you can tell that, okay, this DNA is very old and it's damaged, and those DNA fragments are usually a bit shorter. So maybe I don't know that well how the gene is, or I don't have the full genes maybe, but at least I can see something, and I can distinguish the modern DNA from the ancient one with bioinformatics tools.
Masih ada yang ingin bertanya? Ini ada. Bu Subandia ada.
My name is Titi from Plant Protection. I want to ask about, is it possible to make a vaccine for a plant? Thank you.
Vaccine for
a plant. Plant disease.
Plants?
Yeah.
I'm not really an expert in this, but I think there's vaccines also for plants. I think in University of Helsinki there's Professor Kristiina Mäkinen who's researching potato virus. But I'm not sure, I'm not really sure. But that's a great question, and I will look into that also.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. So I have a question for you. Sorry. Maybe before I ask my question, please introduce. I will introduce myself. My name is Sandiko Sulfatima Bahar. I'm from phytopathology. So my question is, do you do research in Indonesia? And if you do research in Indonesia, why you take Indonesia as a place to do research in Indonesia? And as we know that Nordic countries is really different with Indonesia, which is Indonesia is tropical country. So maybe that is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. So thanks for Professor Siti. It was possible for us to come here and do a collaboration and research together. So Professor Siti and Professor Marko Virta from University of Helsinki are doing collaboration. So this is why we are here. And Indonesia, I think, is extremely interesting place, and you have like many different agricultural practices in here, and it's so different from Finnish system. Also, I think it's interesting because in Finland, you know, we have 4 seasons. We have winter, spring, summer, and autumn. And during the winter, we have less than 0 degrees. So I think that can be playing a role in antibiotic resistance and in the microbial communities in our soil. But here, the temperature is quite similar during the year, right? But then again, you have rainy season and dry season. So I think it's really interesting to compare my results from my PhD and also the results from the study that we do here together. So yeah, different systems.
Okay, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Hanifah Nasrullah from Agronomy 2023. We have talking about the zoonotic virus. Zoonotic virus, and then if we're talking about the One Health itself, that achieving optimal health outcomes, recognizing the interconnection between the people, plant, and then the animals. So in this era in Indonesia, we have already know about that monkeypox virus is already spread out in Indonesia. So about maybe 21 cases and then 7 cases found in Bandung, West Java. So is there any preventive way that or step that can be stop this virus, or maybe can to stop this disease phenomena? Thank you.
Thank you. So your question was to ask how to prevent the spread of this virus. So I think you need interdisciplinary collaboration. You need to map the system and see the different things that are affecting the spread of the virus. So to start to prevent the spread of the virus, interdisciplinary collaboration and mapping the system, and then thinking what are the efficient ways to prevent the spread.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, before good morning, thank you, Mina, for the amazing presentation. My name is Dea from Phytopathology Manchester program. I have one question for you. It's about, is the antimicrobial resistance always guide to negative effect, or you have experience to find the advantage or positive side from AMR to life, especially for human life or plant? And that's, thank you.
Thank you. So, as we know, antimicrobial resistance is a natural phenomenon, so it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because it's natural, it belongs here. But the problem is that the spread of antimicrobial resistance is going into the pathogens, and we cannot treat them anymore. So that's the concern, I would say. And is there, well, antimicrobial resistance, we can use it also when we do biotechnological applications. So we can, for example, if we want to study some bacteria, we can select that bacteria in the lab environmental with antibiotic selection. So if we know that we want to study streptomyces, we can catch it and put some antibiotics on the plate, and then the other bacteria are died, and then the streptomyces can live in that plate because they can resist antibiotics. So we can catch those microbes that are resistant and study them more carefully. So it's also a useful tool that we can use.
Siapa lagi?
Yang dari microbiome desain arep tutur, ini kelasnya microbiome. Nggak khusus.
Boleh, boleh. Pakai bahasa Indonesia aja nggak apa-apa.
Silakan. Pakai bahasa Indonesia boleh. Nanti temannya yang bisa bahasa Inggris
Mana? Oke, benar. Tuh.
Baik, terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Saya akan bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia, Ibu. Jadi yang ingin saya tanyakan adalah, kan diskusi seperti ini tidak semuanya masyarakat khususnya di Indonesia itu dapat menjangkau. Jadi bagaimana peran kita dalam sebagai orang pertanian itu bisa berperan dalam menyebarluaskan tentang pengetahuan mengenai One Health dan interkonektivitasnya dalam ekosistem yang tentunya seperti yang sudah kami hadapi sebelumnya, kita semua seperti pandemi COVID itu kan kita membutuhkan herd immunity. Nah, seperti yang sudah dijelaskan adanya virus Nipah itu kan juga ada ditemukan kasus baru. Jadi mungkin bagaimana kita bisa menyebarluaskan pengetahuan dan peran kita sebagai orang pertanian. Terima kasih.
dalam bahasa Inggris. Siapa?
Adik mau volunteer mentranslate? Gak apa-apa, intinya aja, nggak harus. Gak apa-apa, yuk bantu translate.
Ayo Mas, mewakili yang undergraduate.
Intinya aja nggak apa-apa.
Kalau temannya bisa, sebentar tadi udah nanya. Ayo, kalau temannya yang bisa, ini kelas internasional ini, ayo, come on. Ayo, ayo. Ayo, intinya saja kan tadi sudah tahu ini keterlibatan dari sosial ekonomi pertanian. Iya. Pertanyaannya itu, ini kan informasi yang sangat penting bagi tidak hanya bagi kita, ya, tapi bagi masyarakat. Nah, bagaimana menyebarluaskannya? Enggak semuanya. Yang diberi kesempatan aja enggak mungkin.
Kamu yang jawab. Kok gitu?
Bisa lah. Bisa lah.
Itu tadi, ini informasi penting mengenai One Health, mengenai global, masalah global.
Take your time. I can't wait this question.
Okay, sorry about that. So let me translate it. If I'm translated in the wrong way, forgive me. So it was something that crucial information about One Health itself. So this is not only people in Indonesia can get this knowledge easily. So we can. How do we spread our information about this One Health to the society of Indonesia? Thank you.
Yeah, so how to spread the information of One Health and One Health awareness. So you can start a similar association that we have in Finland, so One Health Finland. And you can do it in Indonesian. And you can start to organize these science-based seminars where people are spreading their knowledge of their topic. And yeah, just raising the awareness. And I think these seminars are a great way to spread the knowledge. You can also think of publication if you like. If you do it in Indonesian, maybe it's easy to people to read. And also to, through the education. So to visit schools and tell about this One Health already in the early stage.
Okay, then fortunately in UGM, it has one organization that from One Health itself, that Mrs. Subandia said. So maybe some people or maybe some student can join.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Anyone else? I will try to conclude later on. Yeah. Anyone else? Yang bertanya? Ayo. Gak ada lagi? Oh, mana? Ya, silakan.
Thank you for the opportunity. Let me introduce myself. My name is Erika. I'm from the Plant Pathogen Protection Department. I want to ask you about, as you mentioned before, that the disease from the animals can infect the human health. And how about the plant pathogen? Is it possible if plant pathogen can infect the human? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think I'm not sure. Like there might be some, fusarium. Yeah, is it a plant pathogen? So if we eat it, it's bad for us, right? So then, in that sense, there are some. But I'm not really an expert on this, so maybe those who are can come to discuss me later and we can have a discussion on this.
Oke, nanti terakhir saya nambahkan ya. Ada lagi? Ada lagi? Mau nanya lagi? Boleh, satu lagi ya. Oke, satu lagi. Oke.
I want to ask again, as long as you know, is there already a system or procedure that help us to reduce or prevent the EMR after we know that in this area or in their sample of water already found that contain IMR? Is there already a produce or system that help us to prevent or reduce it? Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the best way to reduce the AMR is to have the wastewater treatment. So in wastewater treatment, we can purify the water, and that has been shown that it also decreases the amount of AMR. So that's a solution for that.
Oke, saya janjinya tadi yang terakhir ya. Saya dalam bahasa Indonesia saja mungkin lebih bisa dipahami ya. Terkait ini tadi, sorry I will talk in Indonesia. Okay. Jadi saya kira ini seminar ataupun sharing lah ya, nggak usah dibilang seminar yang sangat penting ya, seperti tadi ditanyakan ya. Itu bagaimana cara menyebarluaskannya? Ya itu memang salah satu yang ingin kita sebarkan. Setelah ini nanti ada yang datang lagi dari Helsinki University yang bidangnya adalah social science. Nah, di situ nanti kita akan sharing juga dengan Mbak Alicia namanya, dan kita nanti dari sosial ekonomi pertanian, Profesor Subujo nanti yang jadi koordinatornya untuk yang social science, ya, juga nanti dari dari Sospol, Profesor Hermin itu juga akan involve di sini, antara lain itu Mbak. Memang ini sangat penting, tapi banyak hal-hal penting yang neglected, tidak diperhatikan, sehingga menimbulkan masalah yang semakin besar dan besar, ya enggak? Padahal seharusnya bisa kita cegah dari awal. Seperti misalnya dari penelitian kita, mahasiswa-mahasiswa saya kebetulan yang dari bioteknologi memang karena deteksi AMR tadi kita lakukan menggunakan molekuler. Sementara ini dalam waktu 2-3 tahun memang yang banyak involve itu dari mahasiswa kami yang dari bioteknologi. Tapi itu sangat terbuka. Ini saya juga sangat mengundang sebetulnya dari teman-teman mikrobiologi untuk involve di sini. Nah, dari penelitian yang kami lakukan, yang sudah kami lakukan beberapa tahun terakhir ini, itu memang betul kita menemukan penyebaran AMR di pupuk kandang, di lahan yang sudah dipupuk, di tanaman yang sudah dipupuk, kita menemukan itu. Ya. Sehingga itu kalau kita biarkan terus, nanti itu tadi silent pandemic. Dan itu sudah terjadi di negeri kita, banyak penyakit-penyakit infeksi yang tidak bisa diobati. Semakin banyak diabetes, semakin banyak infeksi kuman yang kemudian membawa kematian karena drug resistant, nggak ada obatnya, ya, karena itu tadi membawa gen-gen resisten terhadap antimicrobial agent. Nah, antimicrobial agent itu sebetulnya tidak hanya antibiotik, kita banyak sekali menggunakan apa? Pestisida in general, ada fungisida, ada herbisida, ada bakterisida. Itu juga merupakan kontribusi dari kita sebagai orang pertanian yang menyebabkan juga timbulnya dan menyebarnya AMR tadi, ya. Itu yang yang perlu kita perhatikan semua. Makanya kita juga jangan kayak kuda pakai topeng, ya. Nggak mau lihat kanan kiri, lihatnya ke depan terus, pokoknya mikrobiologi ya mikrobiologi tok, fitopatologi tok gitu ya. Padahal itu di situ ada interaksi yang penting untuk kita perhatikan, untuk kita, ya kalau kita tidak memperhatikan dan memanage, itu yang akan menjadi masalah semakin besar. Ya. Tadi ada yang tanya apa ada untuk vaksin tanaman, ya? Itu sudah dilakukan, ya. Kalau yang dari Bu Ani itu atau Pak Tri Joko melakukan induce resistant, mungkin pakai mikroba, ya kan? Supaya kemudian tanaman resisten terhadap patogen, sehingga kalau tanaman resisten kita tidak perlu aplikasi pestisida, misalnya begitu. Ya, itu salah satu cara untuk melakukan preventing terhadap penyebaran AMR tadi. Ya, tadi ada lagi apa ya? Saya kira ya antara lain gimana menyetop kalau kita sudah betul-betul kita ketahui ada di pengairan kita, di kolam ikan kita, di pertanian kita, bahkan di smallholder maupun industri besar kayak di Great Giant Pineapple. Ini ada yang melakukan penelitiannya, ya. Di sana ternyata itu karena penggunaan herbisida besar-besaran, karena penggunaan pestisida besar-besaran itu kita menemukan yang AMR tadi, ya. Itu. Lalu bagaimana mencegahnya? Antara lain yang kita temukan, tapi sementara ini masih preliminary, ya. Itu ternyata proses pupuk fermentasi pupuk. Ayo, ini yang microbiology harusnya paham banget ya dengan fermentasi, ya enggak? Itu ternyata cukup bisa menurunkan konsentrasi dari AMR. Jadi misalnya, ya, itu dengan kalau pupuk banyak petani kita kandangnya itu langsung dikeruk pupuknya toh, dipakai untuk mupuk, ya. Itu lebih besar AMR-nya dibandingkan ketika pupuk tadi difermentasi dulu, apalagi fermentasi yang menghasilkan pupuk cair misalnya. Itu kita menemukan paling rendah ada di pupuk cair AMR-nya. Tapi bukan berarti tidak ada, masih ada di pupuk cair tadi. Nah, di situ juga kita harus melihat resistennya yang mana. Yang lebih berbahaya adalah resisten terhadap antibiotik yang baru. Gitu? Kalau antibiotik yang lama kayak tetrasiklin, streptomycin, itu sudah lama, ya. Itu mudah sekali kita temukan resistensi gennya pada itu tadi material untuk agriculture, ya. Itu sehingga masih banyak yang harus kita teliti. Silahkan dari mikrobiologi S1 juga boleh ikut penelitian, monggo. Ya, yang tertarik dengan AMR silahkan, ya. Bisa japri, bisa lewat WA group, monggo ya. Tadi ada juga pentingnya genetic element ya. Mobile genetic element. Ya itu tadi kalau di situ ada resisten antibiotik gene atau resisten antimicrobial resistant genes ya, apalagi itu berdekatan misalnya dengan yang tadi namanya mobile genetic element. Itu kayak transposon, itu merupakan bagian dari DNA yang bisa meloncat-loncat kemana-kemana. Nah inilah nanti dia meloncat sambil membawa gen resisten antibiotik atau dan yang lainnya tadi ya. Itu nanti ini akan membawa semakin menyebarkan ya. Semakin menyebarkan sehingga itu yang juga penting sehingga Mbak Mina itu melakukan analisis juga keberadaan mobile genetic element yang sekaligus dengan AMR tadi ya. Mungkin itu ya. Ada lagi enggak ya tadi yang terlewatkan? Saya kira itu. Mudah-mudahan ini bermanfaat. Silahkan nanti masih ada lagi Mbak Taru yang akan share. Mungkin you will focus on streptomyces maybe? Iya. Beliau akan fokus ke streptomycesnya ya. Saya kira di Departemen Mikrobiologi itu juga streptomyces sangat ya. Pak Dekan itu ahlinya loh streptomyces ya toh. Sehingga monggo ya, itu nanti bisa didiskusikan bersama ya. Mungkin itu? Nggak ada lagi ya. Oke, terima kasih sekali. So, thank you very much Mina. It was really great, so many questions and interesting questions. Ya, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Ayo kita, ya, beri applause lagi. Okay. Thank you. Oke. Ya. Atau mungkin Mbak, ini dosennya mau nambah? Cukup Bu. Cukup.
Ya, sudah cukup. Oke teman-teman, habis ini kita foto bersama. Untuk teman-teman bisa tetap ada di tempat atau barangkali bisa merapat ke tengah. Dan untuk Ibu dan Mina dan Bu Santi bisa di sini. Nanti kita fotonya ngadep ke panggung ya. Mas Cito mau tolong bantuannya. Di tengah aja. Di tengah aja Bu. Iya, Mas Cito. Yes. Okay, thank you Prof. Dia, Bu Santi and Mina, thank you for your great presentation explanation today. May this be the enriching knowledge for all students here. Dan terima kasih untuk teman-teman yang sudah bersedia hadir dan mengikuti kuliah tamu hari ini dari awal sampai menuju siang ini. Jangan lupa untuk mengisi presensi bagi yang belum, barangkali nanti bisa ditampilkan lagi untuk QR atau Google Form-nya. Semoga teman-teman bisa hadir lagi untuk rangkaian kuliah tamu di waktu-waktu dekat ini. Oke, terima kasih and have a nice day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.